What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the new BCS with Brett McMurphy, Collin Wilson, and myself, Stuckey. We will have episodes each and every week, early in the week, both in podcast form and here on our YouTube channel. If you're listening or watching, I should say, on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that like. Really help us out and grow our new channel. Welcome to any new subscribers, and thanks to all of you who are already subscribed. For this episode, we'll talk more higher level topics from the previous weekend and also moving forward with some betting markets as well. And as always, if you're not familiar, Group of Five guys will have their episode midweek, and then Colin and I'll be back with our Week 3 college football betting preview. We'll record a portion of that live on YouTube, 6 p.m. Eastern. Rest of the episode will be out later in podcast form and here on YouTube later that night. So let's jump right into it. We've had a couple weeks of results so far. So I just want to kind of get one big takeaway from you guys from the season. Colin, I'll start with you. Where do you want to go with this?
USC has a defense. Did they shut out this team they just played last week in a spot that you and I thought would kind of be a downer going into a bye? Got Michigan coming up after that. Light work for USC's defense. They are putting up astronomical numbers on the defensive side of the ball when you consider what they've had the last couple of years under Lincoln Riley. USC is ready to rumble in the Big Ten.
I agree. Yeah, the USC defense might be one of the most improved units in the entire country. The staff, top to bottom, huge upgrades. Love some of the guys they brought in on the back end. Yeah, and they just suffocated Utah State. Brett?
I guess I should look at the show notes because I have the same thing, USC. You look at the rest of the schedule. At Michigan does not look as imposing as we thought before the season. They get Penn State at home, Nebraska at home, their finale against Notre Dame. Playoff implications, maybe for both or one team. So I'll pivot real quickly to Oregon. My preseason number one ranked team has not looked good at all. Dan Lanning told me in the offseason he thought his offensive line would be their strength. Their offense has not looked good at all, Stuck. Maybe they figure it out, but right now they can't block anybody.
Yeah, been one of the most disappointing teams results-wise. I mean, 45-point favorites, barely beat Idaho. 20-point favorites. I mean, I think the line actually closed like 18. Barely beat Boise State. Arguably should have lost.
They lost, two kick
touchdowns.
returns or they lose.
Yeah, I think that leads right into my biggest takeaway. It's that Texas over Oregon. So I said coming into the year, and you guys all laughed at me in our when we revealed our brackets. I had Georgia, Ohio State in the national title. You guys all had Oregon winning it all. So I'll pat myself on the back there before it all goes wrong. And I'll laugh at Colin one more time for having Florida State in his college football playoff bracket. But that's besides the point. My biggest takeaway is I did have Oregon as one of the top 3 teams. But I said to myself, who's going to be that team in the next year that steps up? Well, it's been Texas, and Oregon has taken a step back. My other key takeaway is I don't know anything. I mean, what I've seen so far from these teams in this new college football era where there's such drastic roster turnover and roster attrition, it's very hard to get a grasp on these teams. And I don't really like to look at data until, we're at least, 3 to 4 weeks into the season. And a lot of these teams, you're going to be playing FCS teams. It's really hard to draw any type of takeaway from, playing Arkansas Pine Bluff and being number one and finishing drives, which I'm sure Colin's going to mention. But that's the takeaway. Look at the inconsistencies of team performances. I think they're more drastic. The variance is higher than it's ever been. Look at Penn State, dominate West Virginia, come back home, almost lose to Bowling Green. Notre Dame, go down to College Station, dominate, relatively speaking, their defense completely dominated. They couldn't stop Northern Illinois, couldn't move the ball. Lose at home as 28-point favorites. So, yeah, it's trying to get a grasp on who's good, who's not, who's more improved, adjusting power ratings. It is difficult. That's my biggest takeaway, other than Texas replacing Oregon in that top 3. All right, so I guess that's a very nice segue into our next topic here. You can go one-word answer, one-sentence answer. You can expand on it if you'd like. Is Texas back? Colin?
Texas is absolutely back. Usually college football teams have trouble on the road. They get a little mentally misdirected. Not a problem with the Longhorns. They're not only back, they're better than when they were back in Sam Ehlinger's title. So this is the best Texas version we've seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that Texas was back last year. They came up just short of making the national championship game. But Brett, is Texas back?
False, Stuck. Michigan's going to end up being an 8-win team.
That's generous.
Impress. Okay. Yeah. Say they're worse. 7-win team. They've got no offense. Very impressive win, but
frozen for you.
If their name wasn't Michigan, it really wouldn't have much of an impact. Let's see if Texas can get through 3 consecutive October games. A juggernaut. Oklahoma, Georgia, and Vanderbilt, the toughest for last.
Oklahoma. I'm not sure about that. We'll get to contenders or pretenders in just a second. I'm saying Texas is back. I think they're a clear top 3 team right now with Ohio State and Georgia. Quinn Ewers looked amazing in that game. And look, I think Michigan's terrible. I did coming into the season. I had them miss the college football playoff. They might not win 8 games. They might win 7 games. So I think Texas is back. They were very close, if not all the way back last year, but I think they're fully back now. Next topic here, before we get to some contenders or pretenders, Notre Dame with a hilarious loss to Northern Illinois. Was very happy for all those kids. Thomas Hammock as well. He was crying on the sidelines. And all those kids who didn't get recruited from the area by Notre Dame going into the Cathedral and get an outright victory. And just a bad loss for Marcus Freeman. His 3rd bad loss as a huge favorite. 2nd time as a home favorite of over 3 touchdowns. It's potentially a trend here with Notre Dame just not showing up in letdown spots against inferior competition. Northern Illinois makes its debut. Brett would know. And I guess Northern Illinois is probably ranked 2012.
Yeah, it's the first time in about a dozen years, 11 or 12 years since they've been in the top 25.
Yeah, so Northern Illinois into the top 25 with a big win. Big weekend for the MAC in general. Is it, Collin, you have Notre Dame to make the college football playoff. Ticket on that. Your college football playoff bracket is just falling to pieces here with each passing day. We're in September 9th. Do you have anyone left in your bracket?
Correction, I have Georgia winning the title, not Oregon, but I do have Oregon there. But yeah.
Are we sure Oregon's even going to make it at this rate?
I mean, I have Penn State in there too. They almost blew it too. So it's as good as the March Madness brackets I've put up.
So the question is it time to buy Notre Dame? And I just want to get your thoughts on it's an interesting discussion because Notre Dame's not going to have a conference championship. And what is their path? So 2-part question. Is it time to buy Notre Dame futures? And number 2, what is their path? I think if they go 11-1, it's going to, now all this depends on everything else that happens, but I think if they go 11-1 with this loss being so far in the rearview mirror, they're probably in. Do I want to buy futures in Notre Dame now? No. They have questions. That offensive line, it's not going to be fixed anytime soon. Leonard is limited as a passer. Am I fully confident that Marcus Freeman is not going to have another dud and they're going to get upset again? No. Do I think they're going to beat USC also? No. And I think if they go 10-2, you're out. This is too much of a stain. Now, maybe Northern Illinois is really, really good and they go undefeated. If you're a Notre Dame fan, that's what you should be rooting for. Northern Illinois to go undefeated and to get into the college football playoff as the Group of 5 team. If that's the case, you can maybe afford a loss. Do I see Northern Illinois going undefeated? No. I think Bowling Green's going to win the MAC. So my answer is no, I'm not buying Notre Dame futures. I think they can get in at 11-1, but I don't think they're beating USC. And I think they could even get upset. They could get upset this weekend at Purdue. That's a possibility. Purdue, I think, is potentially live in that game. And I think at 10-2 with this loss, unless Northern Illinois is the 2012 Northern Illinois and they can somehow go undefeated, Notre Dame is out. Collin, thoughts?
I mean, it's not like we haven't been here before. I mean, 2 years ago, Notre Dame lost to Marshall at home. Pretty embarrassing. The next week, they were able to beat Cal, then UNC, BYU. They did have an 8-4 season that year, but there's other losses that Marcus
Didn't they
Freeman
barely beat Cal? They almost lost to Cal.
They beat Cal by a possession, and then a lot against North Carolina. So it's just they can bounce back, right? I mean, the 3 losses that they had last year, they were very strong the weeks after. So it's just one of the. I tend to believe that from a player and personnel perspective, there's no way they should have lost this game. I mean, Northern Illinois was like 4.2 yards average distance on third down, and Notre Dame was like 8 yards.
Northern Illinois looked like the better team.
Yeah, they were. Notre Dame was completely unprepared. It can't be a talent issue. It can't be like line these kids up on the field. Northern Illinois is better. The blame should all go on the coaching staff, which means the coaching staff can actually get this turned around. But what this loss does is it really makes that USC game paramount to the entire season. That is your conference championship game. So, you wanted to make a playoff with a couple cushion games that you could lose 1 or 2. You just burned that. So it's not a good position. I wouldn't buy futures on Notre Dame.
Notre Dame also has 2 service academies on that schedule. Northern Illinois is running kind of like a service academy offense. Look out. Brett, thoughts on the path and whether or not you're buying the dip on Notre Dame?
Yeah, it's Stuck. I agree with you guys. They got to go 11-1 instead of playing a future on Notre Dame getting the college football playoff. Just take them on the money line every game and just roll it over. And finally, if they run the table, it'll probably pay off more than whatever their odds to get to the playoff are. But yeah, they're not going to run the table. It's that simple. And for their hopes that NIU runs a table, 3 weeks they have your Wolfpack Stuckey. They go to Raleigh to play NC State. So if NIU beats Notre Dame and NC State and they can win the MAC at 10-2, I think they're locked to get in as for the G5. For Notre Dame, I'd be concerned because again, it was his first game replacing Brian Kelly. Not that I remember or anything, but they blew a 28-7 lead to Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. You can chalk that up to inexperience, but now you've got 3 losses stuck, like you said, big home favorites. This keeps continually happening. Also a concern, 7 of his 29 games as Notre Dame coach, the Irish have failed to score more than 21 points. Where do they go from here? We'll have to find out. But anything short of running the table, we will see you in Orlando at the Pop-Tarts Bowl, Fighting Irish fans.
Yeah, the funny thing is Northern Illinois, who beat in their first – so I had money on Northern Illinois against Notre Dame. But in their week 1 game, they beat Western Illinois 54-15. Western Illinois put up 300 yards of offense on Northern Illinois in that game. And I'm sitting there Friday night watching Western Illinois play Indiana. And they couldn't. I thought they were going to go to a running clock. I don't think they had 100 total yards of offense. They lost 77-3. So I was like, wow, this is not a good look for Northern Illinois, that they let this team get 300 yards passing or get 300 total yards. Western Illinois' quarterback went 13-25 for 100 yards, 2 picks. They ran it 26 times for 12 yards against Indiana. Maybe we should start talking about Indiana in the college football playoff. But I agree. Notre Dame, I believe before the loss to Northern Illinois, they were minus 300 to make the college football playoff. Flip that sign around, plus 300 now. They make $136 million in revenue, the Notre Dame football program. That's 18 times more than NIU. If you want to visualize it, that's the height of a beer bottle versus the ground floor of a building.
Well, if you look up Thomas Hammock's salary, he just got the next 3 years. Northern Illinois just got the next 3 years paid just by how much they were paid to come play that game.
Yeah, just stunning win. Huge impact to the college football market. And we consider kind of Notre Dame as the ACC in a way, like they play ACC teams. A lot of people are like, hey, the ACC Notre Dame combo is going to get 2 teams in. I mean, how disappointed has the ACC been? All the double-digit upsets this year have been by ACC teams. SMU. Colin, do you have SMU in your college football playoff bracket too?
I don't. We're just trying to get over 7.5 wins here. So
good luck.
Stay steady.
All right, let's get to some contenders versus pretenders. So there's been some underwhelming performances by teams that we already talked about. Oregon, that many thought were in the mix. So I'll frame it this way. I'll name a team. You say if they're a contender or pretender in terms of the potential to get to the College Football Playoff semifinals. So not just get to the College Football Playoff, but also win a game. Oklahoma, just say yes or no, and then if you want to add a sentence, you can. Oklahoma, Colin?
No, they're 130th in passing success rate.
Brett?
No, you have to get to the playoffs to get to the semifinals.
No, something's off with Jackson Arnold. Horrible performance against Houston. Clemson. Cade Klubnik, number 1 in EPA per play last week. Just absolutely went bananas. Freshman wide receiver, Wesco, maybe you turn more to the freshmen. They looked great against App State. That game was over in a blink of an eye. I mean, it was, 35-0 into the first quarter? Clemson obviously did not look good against Georgia. Are they a threat to make the semifinals, Colin?
No, you have to be inside the top 50 in defensive havoc to beat Miami, and they're not.
Brett?
They may sneak in the playoff, but they don't have enough to get to the semifinals.
I'm going to say yes. I think that's their ceiling, though. That's their absolute ceiling, is they get in, get a good matchup, win that game, but I still don't think the offense has the potential to really beat some of the top-tier teams, as we saw against Georgia. Penn State, little worrisome performance against Bowling Green, who was missing a couple of key players, Colin.
Absolutely. I just think they took a week off. Penn State's offense that they showed against West Virginia is playoff ready.
Brett?
Yeah, I think it would depend who Penn State got in the quarterfinal. But yeah, I think they have a real shot to get to the semis.
We all agree Notre Dame, no. Oregon, I think we'd all agree yes. Still has the potential to make the semifinals, but definitely a team to watch to see if they improve in some of the troubling areas. Texas A&M, Colin?
No, Connor Weigman running Colin Klein's offense is not going to get there.
Brett?
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to Florida, which is crazy after how Florida looked against Miami in the opener.
Yeah, I'm sadly going to say no as well. I need to see more from the offense. I mean, they couldn't do anything. Northern Illinois looked way more competent at Notre Dame. And Ethan Hampton had more passing yards in the first quarter in South Bend than Connor Weigman did in the entire game in College Station against Notre Dame. No. Missouri, Colin?
I'm going to go yes. The schedule is way too soft. They only have to worry about Bama. Number 1 in the nation defensively and quality drives allowed. Nobody's even getting past the 50. I know their competition. But this is an upgrade losing Blake Baker at defensive coordinator. So Missouri, yes.
Brett?
They can get past back-to-back games against Boston College and Vanderbilt. They got a shot. But ultimately, I think they're 5th or 6th best in the SEC. They're going to shuffle down easy with the easy schedule. I don't see them matching up well once they get to the playoffs to get to the semis.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they can skate by because of the schedule and other stuff that happens, but the question is, can they win a game? No. I still don't believe in that defense. They're not going to play Little Sisters of the Poor every week. I mean, they played Murray State and Buffalo was playing a wingback at quarterback. So yeah, no one scored yet. Utah, Cam Rising, it's looked pretty good so far. You know, Whittingham's always going to have that team prepared, that D ready. Colin?
They're still making the playoff, and if they're playing a game at home, they can win that and they have a shot at the quarter. So I'll say yes as long as Cam Rising stays healthy. Now that there was positive news today that the injury is not as bad as people thought, and Cam Rising will be back. So Utah stays on the yes list until then.
Yep, saw that as well. Brett?
I'm going to say no, because that would mean even if Utah, Utah's my pick to win the Big 12. They've got to beat the SEC or the Big 10 runner-up to get to the semifinal. I don't think they can do that.
It's a fair point. I'll say yes. I mean, some of these teams have that potential to win it. But I get your point, Brett. Lastly, LSU. It's a no from me, dog. Colin?
Yeah, no. It was never a yes.
Brett?
No. Yeah, no. Sweep the board.
Yeah. I didn't even put that. Our producers edit the outline. I don't know whoever put LSU, added LSU in there. You're fired. All right. Let's go to a Coach Prime update. Colorado, they got destroyed in Lincoln. Shedeur Sanders throws his offensive line under the bus after the game. I mean, what's the realistic expectations for this Buffalo team? I'll say a bowl, getting to 6 wins. Schedule's going to get tough. They're suffering injuries on defense. We talked about this, Colin. One of our main concerns about Colorado, they don't have depth once the injuries start hitting. Now I'm worried about like the locker room, and you're going to get everyone's best shot every week. Could already be 0-2 easily. So, yeah, I think it's 6-6 is a good outcome for this Colorado team. And I think that's what they finish at, 5-7, 6-6, somewhere in that ballpark.
Stop what you're doing right now and subscribe to the newest college sports YouTube channel.
College football is around the corner, and the new BBOC channel is your destination for betting on college sports.
Interviews with former college athletes and other topics such as College Football 25.
Subscribe now and get in on the action.
And also for Brett, well, I'll ask Colin first. Colin, what is like a realistic expectation for this team?
Well, I made their win total of 5.1. We're still on track to get there. They're going to lose a lot of chances to get some wins and add to that win total. This past weekend was one of them. They need to win this weekend against Colorado State. But if you go back and look, Colorado State actually created some pressure against the Texas offensive line. What's the handicap on Colorado? Get pressure on Shedeur, flush him out, and make sure he can't hit his targets downfield. So Colorado State, it should be an easy win for Colorado. We'll see if the team is still together.
Yeah, I do worry about the Colorado State secondary. Like transfer from Navy in there, but their offense can move the ball enough. Horton can have a huge day against Colorado. Brett, is Sanders done after this year? And what is your expectation, or what should the expectation be of Colorado fans?
Stuck, I'm surprised you think they can get to 6 wins. I mean, going into the season,
what they should hope for, like what you should.
What they should hope for. I thought before the season they were a 4 or 5 win team, and that hasn't changed. It's the same as last year. You mentioned Shedeur Sanders threw his offensive line under the bus. Unfortunately, the offensive line was intercepted at the 3 and returned for a touchdown. I think Deion's not going to be back next year. That's not any inside information. I'm not reporting that as a news report. You asked my opinion. I think if they get to 6 wins, they get to bowl game, Deion can say, look, I've got the program on solid footing. I want to watch my kids play in the NFL, and he leaves. If they don't get to 6 wins, then he says whatever he says and says, I want to watch my kids play in the NFL, and he doesn't come back. We'll have to see if my opinion's correct or not. But yeah, Stuck, I don't think he's long for the college game. I really don't. We'll see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I would say right now that Deion will not be Colorado's coach in 2025 by his choice.
Deion to Florida State, right? Mike Norvell keeps losing.
I know. It's so funny, though. Norvell literally has a contract offer in his hand from Alabama. They go undefeated. Then the injuries happen. Everything happened in the Orange Bowl. And then he starts 0-2, and they're like, we need to start looking somewhere else. That's the craziest rumor I keep hearing. Probably the worst one was cash your ticket. Big Ten Media Day. I'm doing an interview. Cleveland radio station. First question from Big Ten Media Day. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat? Yeah. So if you lose a game now in college football, you're on the hot seat. If you lose 2, they're starting to name the hot board replacements for Florida State. I saw Jimbo Fisher's name resurface. And it would be, maybe he can find his Christmas tree by the curb
3 losing seasons in 5 years.
Come back to Tallahassee.
Like 3 losing seasons in 5 years. They don't get to a bowl this year. Seat will warm up a bit, don't you think?
Well, warms up. Yeah, sure. Everybody's seat is warm, but when people like Charlie was talking on Green Dot Daily, is Dabo on the hot seat? I'm like, are you freaking kidding? Like, hot seat to me means you can be fired at the end of the season. So Norvell is not going to be fired at the end of the season.
If the boosters pony up for Deion, you never know. And I'll tell you, his seat is
That'd
not
be a mistake.
Warm. Kirby, his seat is ice cold down in Athens. All right, one last question. Group of 5. Who's the best Group of 5 team, and who has the highest ceiling? My answer is easy. It's Aston Genty. Like, you have him on your team. I've been saying for 2 years, the best back in the country. Or I thought Oregon would be able to contain him. Nope, went off again. First running back with 9 rushing touchdowns over the first 2 games since Ricky Williams. How about that for a stumper? Source's stumper coming up, by the way, in just a moment. I should have asked you guys if you knew who it was. Collin, best group of 5 team?
I'm going to go surprising here. I'm going to stick close to our Action Network power ratings. I make Memphis a half point better than Boise. But, oh, man, did that Memphis number against Florida State open up at 4 and get slammed all the way up to 7.5 against the Seminoles? So I probably have a different answer. It'll probably be Boise State next week. But as of right now, I got Memphis a half point better than the Broncos.
The people are dying to know. Florida State taking money as a favorite? Shocker.
Yeah.
Are you going back to the well with Florida State as a favorite?
There's no way I'm touching this team for the rest of the year. Come on. I can't. 2 losses to start off, all the Twitter hate. I'm done with the Seminoles.
Brett, best group of 5 team with the high ceiling?
Technically, you guys are right. I'm looking at which Group 5 team gets to the playoff. I had Texas State in the preseason. I'm going to stick with Texas State. They smashed UTSA. Meep. Now they get Arizona State. That would be a huge win for them. Obviously, NIU is in the driver's seat right now, especially if they beat NC State. The reason why I didn't pick Boise State, and look, I love Genty, I love Boise State, was their schedule. The Oregon game I had as a loss. They still got to play Oregon State and Washington State. Yeah, their schedule, there's more opportunities, but there still could be more losses. You can only lose so many games and get that Group 5 bid. So is Boise the best Group 5 team? Yeah, probably. Are they going to get to the Group 5? Are they going to the college football playoff? I don't think so. I think they'll have too many losses. Somebody else will jump them.
All right. Should be an interesting race with the MAC now throwing its hat into the running. All right. Let's go to, we still have to get to, we'll talk with Manziel on some various topics that Collin and I spoke with him about earlier today. At the end of the show, we'll take some of those clips for this episode. But we have Source's Stumper is back for another year. Was the champion last year. Hopefully, you never even send me did you send me a prize?
It's still probably laying on your
2 years ago.
It's probably still laying on your front door, Stuck.
Well, I'll go check after the show. If not, I want a prize next week. All right. So Source's Stumper. We'll keep track each week. Brett comes up with a question. Take it away.
Here we go. Source's Stumper, America's favorite game show. You mentioned Kirby Smart. Kirby has lost only 16 games in his career to 11 coaches. 5 of those 11 coaches are no longer coaching. Who are the 6 current head coaches that have defeated Kirby Smart? And I will give you a hint. Every one of the 6 coaches is no longer coaching at the school where he beat Georgia. Stuck, since you're the reigning champ, fire away.
I saw that stat, and I didn't see the coaches, but I saw that they're no longer coaching. Can you repeat one more time?
Name that there are 6 current head coaches. They are currently head coaches. They defeated Kirby Smart as a head coach at another school. All 6 have been fired from the school where they beat Kirby. They are the only 6 active head coaches currently coaching at the FBS level with a win against Georgia and Kirby Smart.
Let's go back to that bowl game, the sleepy SEC spot, Texas, Tom Herman.
That is correct. Tom Herman, Florida Atlantic's Tom Herman is one. Collin?
Let's go Hugh Freeze.
Very good. That's really the only guy that you could maybe say really isn't a demotion. The rest of them are all demoted big time. Freeze beat Kirby at Ole Miss.
Gus Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn, the Gus Bus. Beat him at Auburn. Now it gets a little tougher. Collin?
I can only think of the ones that are gone, like Dan Mullen. Oh boy, this is where the editing comes in fun. And Nick Saban's gone. Damn, Nick Saban's gone. Jim McElwain.
That's right.
What?
Central Michigan's Jim McElwain beat Kirby at Florida. We got 2 coaches left, Stuck.
They have to be head coaches right now?
They are current head coaches, yep.
So it can't be Muschamp. So I think Muschamp beat him.
Right. Muschamp, there's 5 coaches that are no longer head coaches that are not among the list. Will Muschamp, right. Paul Johnson, Dan Mullen, Coach O, and Nick Saban. So we're looking at 2 more current head coaches that beat Georgia and Kirby at another school, was fired at that school, and is coaching somewhere else now.
Butch Jones?
Very nice. Arkansas State's Butch Jones beat Kirby at Tennessee. Collin, you can tie up week 1 here.
I think I'm out.
I know it. I am so confident that I know it. I'm going to let Stuckey have a guess. He said he doesn't know it. I know it. Now, you know what? He's on a 30-second clock.
I mean, I already got my 3 guesses, but I
mean, I know it. And
are you clocking it?
I don't know why I'm on the clock. I've already done my job.
I mean, I know who it is. This is over. So,
and this isn't to win or anything. We're just going to tie.
There's 10 seconds left for your clock, and I'm going to tell you where this coach coaches. He coaches in
Why am I on the clock?
All right, it's Derek Mason. He's in Conference USA.
Middle Tennessee's Derek Mason. How's that for a list of coaches that have beat Kirby? Hugh Freeze, Tom Herman, Butch Jones, Gus Malzahn, Derek Mason, and Jim McElwain. Hey, we don't like this. This isn't college football. Well, it's certainly not the NFL. So we will have a tiebreaker from the esteemed. I don't really know his official title. Matt Mitchell, who runs everything here at the BBOC podcast. Sorry, I don't know your title, Matt or Mr. Mitchell. This has nothing to do with me being hijacked. This week features a game. There's a game, so you can look at this week's schedule. That was also the very first college football matchup to be broadcasted live on the radio back in 1921. Yes, Stuck, that was my freshman year at Oklahoma State. Can you name what game that is? They are playing this week.
First one to get it?
What's that?
First one to get it?
Well, if you make a guess, then you got to wait till the other guy guesses. But whoever can guess first gets first guess.
Georgia, Kentucky.
Wrong. Okay, Stuck.
All
Stuck,
right.
you got 30 seconds. I'm timing you.
I'm pulling up the. Tell me when I have 10 seconds. I'm looking at the schedule here.
Oh, I think I know it.
You got 15.
There's not many games it could be. Like, it's got to be a.
There's one that screams.
You got 10.
It has to be.
Backyard brawl?
Brett, is it West Virginia Pitt?
That's what I said, backyard brawl.
Yeah,
you cut out Stuck. Yeah, you got it, Stuck. Backyard brawl, according to Mr. Mitchell, broadcast in 1921 on historic KDKA.
There you go, Stuck. I can't believe it's not Notre Dame Purdue. That was going
to be my other guess.
So, Stuck, you take a commanding 4-3 lead in the next week. Nice job. Nice job on the coaches, too.
Yeah, that was good pull. Mason, I wouldn't have got Mason, I don't think. I would have needed a lot of time. I didn't think Mason, I forgot. Yeah. I always think of Mason as Vandy. And I'm like,
Tom Herman comes immediately. You're right. Tom Herman.
What? It's like you guys are asking who's on the hot seat. And like all those guys, massive wins against Kirby and Georgia. And yet, some of them were fired the same season. So, yeah, it's what have you done for me right now, not what have you done for me lately?
one for the road. The Heisman Trophy, a question for Brett. You tell us every year, the end of the season. It's only the end of the season that matters for this award. We are all Heisman voters, in full disclosure. Does anything that has occurred to date realistically matter? Can we take anything away from the first few games?
I mean, I know, like you said, I keep saying it. It's a broken record, but my gosh, Cam Ward and Miller Moss are in a great position. I don't think Genty can keep it up. He's going to have one game where he has 75 yards, plus he's a Group 5 guy. Everybody will forget about him. But, man, Moss with Lincoln Riley, we talked about them earlier, their schedule. And then if Miami wins the ACC, what Cam Ward's done so far, God, they're going to be tough to beat. But I can't recommend it because we've seen the list of September Heisman winners are a mile long and nobody's ever done it. But those are two guys I would actually consider.
All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe and like button on our new YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. If you're listening via podcast, speaking of podcast, Group of 5 guys will be back midweek. Colin will be back Thursday night. We'll record a portion of that on our new YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Eastern. Episode will be out later that night. Live show is always 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll tweet out a link. It'll be on the new YouTube channel. It's time for us to go try to find some winners. Catch y'all later. Cheers.